The sound of the front door slamming shut was like a gunshot in the pouring rain. David Fletcher watched from the grand two-story window of his study as his wife of 15 years, Vivian, dragged her suitcase down the slick cobblestone drive. He held a glass of expensive Macallan 25, the amber liquid swirling. "And don't bother coming back," he yelled, though she couldn't hear him. He'd just kicked her out of the house. His house. He was the CEO of Paul Cross Industries, a king in his own empire. She was nothing. Just a wife. What he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly fathom, was that the woman shivering in the taxi was not just his ex-wife. She was his new boss. The fight had been brewing for months, a low, toxic humidity in the air of their 12,000-square-foot Georgian mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. But tonight it had finally broken. David Fletcher had come home triumphant. He'd just closed the Kenjutsu acquisition, a multi-billion-dollar deal that would solidify his legacy as the most brilliant CEO Paul Cross Industries had ever seen. He was 45, broad-shouldered, with a lion's mane of silvering hair and a voice that commanded boardrooms and silenced dinner parties. He expected adulation. He expected his wife Vivian to be waiting with a smile, a drink, and breathless admiration. Instead, he found her in the main atrium, standing beside a small, packed suitcase. Vivian Grace was a woman who had become adept at fading into the background. She was slim, with quiet, intelligent eyes and dark hair she usually kept in a simple twist. She had been the perfect corporate wife, elegant, silent, and supportive. Tonight, however, her silence was different. It was cold. "Where are you going?" David had barked, shrugging off his custom trench coat. "I was going to ask you the same question, David," she replied, her voice dangerously steady. She held up a small platinum earring. "This isn't mine. I found it in our bathroom, under your sink." David's face, usually so composed, flickered with annoyance, not guilt. "So what? We had a small celebration after the signing. Things got a little wild." "A celebration, David? Her name is Sophia Hayes. She's 26. She's an intern in your marketing department. And according to your credit card statements, you've been celebrating with her for 6 months. Paris, the Hamptons, a lease on a condo in Tribeca." David actually laughed. It was a short, sharp, dismissive sound. "You've been spying on me. After everything I've given you, this house, the cars, the access. You live like a Queen Vivian, and you contribute nothing." "Nothing?" The word was quiet, but it vibrated with a sudden unfamiliar force. "I managed this estate. I raised I managed your social life. I entertained your clients. I sat smiling while you took credit for ideas that what?" he sneered, stepping closer. The smell of whiskey and an expensive floral perfume, Sophia's perfume, rolled off him. "Ideas you had? You haven't had an original thought since we met. You were just Arthur Grace's timid daughter, and you'd be nothing without me. I took your father's legacy, that dusty old company, and I made it a global powerhouse. I did that." "My father," she whispered, and the look in her eyes was one of pure distilled ice. "My father trusted you." "Your father was a good man, but a soft-hearted fool," David snapped. "He didn't have the killer instinct. I do. And I am tired of dragging your dead weight behind me. This thing with Sophia, it's an upgrade. It's what I deserve." "You deserve—" Vivian took a deep breath, visibly composing herself. "I want a divorce, David." "Good." He smiled a predator's smile. "I'll have Marcus Ryland draw up the papers. You'll get the standard settlement. You'll be comfortable. Now, if you're quite finished—" He turned to go up the sweeping staircase, but Vivian's voice stopped him. "I'm not signing an NDA." David turned back slowly. "What did you say?" "I will not be silent about your infidelity. I will not protect your reputation. The standard settlement isn't going to cut it, David." A dark, dangerous rage twisted David's features. This was not in his script. She was supposed to cry, to beg to be broken. She was not supposed to negotiate. "You're in no position to demand anything," he hissed, walking down the stairs until he was inches from her face. "You think you can fight me? You have no money of your own. You have no power. Everything you own because my name is on it. This house. My house. The art on the walls. My art. The car in the drive. My car." He pointed a thick finger toward the door. "You want to fight? Fine. Fight me from a hotel room. Get out. Now." "David, you can't be serious. It's pouring. My name is on the deed to this house as well." "A technicality," he roared. He grabbed her thin arm, his fingers digging in. "A legal courtesy. I paid for this house with my bonuses. The bonuses I earned." He didn't just push her. He physically dragged her and the small suitcase to the massive oak doorway. He wrenched it open, and the cold, wet wind of the October night blasted into the warm foyer. "You want a war, Vivian? You just lost. Get out of my house." He threw her suitcase onto the wet cobblestones, where it popped open, spilling a few items of simple clothing. He didn't shove her, but his presence was so menacing, so violent, that she stumbled backward over the threshold and onto the steps. "You will regret this," she said, not as a threat, but as a simple, chilling statement of fact. She rightened her feet, her rain-soaked hair clinging to her face. "I'm already forgetting you," David spat. He slammed the door. The heavy thud of the bolt sliding into place echoed in the night. Inside, David Fletcher poured himself another drink. He felt a rush of adrenaline, of pure, unadulterated power. He'd finally cut the last tie to the old world, to Arthur Grace's sentimental nonsense. He picked up his phone and dialed. "Sophia. Hey." "Yeah, it's done. No, she's gone. For good. Why don't you come over? Bring that bottle of Dom we were saving. The house is all ours now." Outside, Vivian Grace stood in the driving rain for a full minute. She didn't shiver. She didn't cry. She simply stared at the house. Her house. The house her father had built. The house David had just claimed as his. She pulled out her phone, shielding it from the rain. She made one call, not to a friend, not to a hotel, but to a number she hadn't dialed in years. "Mr. Cole," she said, her voice clear and strong over the storm. "It's Vivian. Vivian Grace. Yes, it's been a long time. I'm afraid the contingency has been met. Yes, he just kicked me out. It's time." A black car, a discreet town car she had summoned half an hour before the fight even began, pulled up to the curb. She got in, leaving her ruined suitcase and scattered clothes on the drive like a shed skin. The driver didn't ask where she was going. He already had the address. Vivian didn't go to a friend's house. She wouldn't burden them, and more importantly, she couldn't risk any emotional attachments clouding her judgment. She checked into the Delamar Greenwich Harbor, a luxury hotel, under her maiden name. She needed a clean, sterile environment, a base of operations. For 2 days, she was a ghost. She ordered room service, her laptop open, staring at the complex stock tickers and internal reports of Paul Cross Industries. These were not new to her. While David thought she was at Pilates or hosting luncheons, she had been studying. For years. She'd read every 10K, every proxy statement, every analyst report. She knew the company's weaknesses, its bloated departments, and its over-leveraged acquisitions like the Kenjutsu deal. David saw it as his crowning achievement. Vivian saw it as a ticking time bomb, a massive debt anchor painted to look like a treasure. On the 3rd day, there was a sharp rap on her door. It wasn't room service. It was a process server. He handed her a thick, cream-colored envelope. Inside was the divorce petition from Marcus Ryland, David's attorney. Ryland was a shark known for burying opponents in paperwork and bleeding them dry in depositions. Tucked inside was a generous settlement offer. Vivian sat on the stiff hotel sofa and read it. David was offering her the Garden condo on the edge of town, a property they'd bought as a rental investment. He was offering a one-time lump sum payment of $5 million. In return, she was to sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement agreeing to never speak about David, his business dealings, or his personal life to anyone, ever. She was to relinquish all claims to the Greenwich Mansion, the Hamptons Beach House, the art collection, and most critically, any and all shares or holdings in Paul Cross Industries. A bitter smile touched her lips. $5 million. To David, this was an astronomical sum for a woman who contributed nothing. To him, it was a rounding error, a small price to pay for a clean, quiet exit. It was what he'd pay to make a minor lawsuit go away. He had forgotten or perhaps never known the scale of her family's wealth. He saw her as Arthur Grace's daughter, not as Arthur Grace's heir. Attached to the offer was a short handwritten note from Ryland himself. Ms. Grace Vivian, I urge you to accept this more than generous offer. David is prepared to fight. If you refuse, we will file for cause citing your erratic behavior and emotional instability. We have staff willing to testify. This offer is his way of being kind. Take it. Move on. Don't try to fight a man like David Fletcher. You will lose. Erratic behavior, she whispered. He was going to paint her as the unstable one. The classic textbook gaslighting of a powerful man. She picked up the phone and dialed her attorney. Mr. Cole, she said. I've received their opening salvo. It's as insulting as we predicted. There was a dry chuckle on the other end of the line. Harrison Cole was in his late 70s, a man who had been Arthur Grace's closest friend and legal counsel for 40 years. His firm, Cole, Bainbridge & Locke, was the very definition of old-world power. Generous, I assume, Cole asked. $5 million in a condo. Cole's laugh was louder this time. He's trying to buy you off for the price of his annual bonus. And the shares. He's grouped them in with the furniture. Any and all shares. He thinks I have that small portfolio of personal stock father gave me for my 30th birthday. The 2,000 shares. Yes, Cole said. He's forgotten about the other. He never knew, Vivian corrected. My father made sure of it. Is it ready? The Grace Family Trust, Cole said, his voice dropping into a formal, serious tone, was activated the moment you called me. The covenants of the trust are explicit per your father's directive. In the event of a no-fault dissolution of your marriage, or a legal separation initiated by either party, all assets held within the trust, including its voting rights, revert from a passive non-voting status to active full control status. The sole beneficiary and acting trustee, Vivian Grace. And the holdings? Vivian asked, though she knew the answer by heart. 22% of the voting stock of Paul Cross Industries. The entire original Grace founder's stake. David Fletcher, as CEO, personally holds 2.5%. The rest of the board is fractured. Henry Paul holds 10%. Camilla Cross holds 12%. And the other 53.5% is institutional and public. Vivian, you are, as of 3 days ago, the single largest shareholder in the company. Vivian closed her eyes. She felt the weight of it, a cold, heavy responsibility. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about a promise. My father knew, she whispered. He knew what David was. Arthur respected David's ambition, Cole said gently. But he feared his hubris. He called this trust the anchor. He said David was a magnificent ship, but he needed an anchor to stop him from dashing himself on the rocks. You, my dear, are that anchor, and it appears the storm has arrived. He's leveraging the company to buy Kenjutsu, Vivian said, all business. He's taken on $1.8 billion in debt collateralized against the company's core assets. If the Kenjutsu integration fails, or if their tech is outdated, which my research suggests it is, the company will be bankrupt within 2 years. Cole was silent for a moment. You've done your homework. Arthur would be so proud. David is presenting his Phase 2 integration plan at the quarterly board meeting. It's in 10 days, Vivian said. He's going to ask for another $500 million in financing to modernize Kenjutsu. He's bleeding the company to pay for his mistake. And he'll get it, Cole said. The board is intimidated by him. His numbers on the surface look stellar. Not if the largest shareholder objects, Vivian said. Mr. Cole, please send my response to Marcus Ryland. What is our response? Vivian looked at the insulting $5 million offer. She picked up a pen. Just 2 words, she said. She wrote, "I decline" across the front page of the settlement in thick black ink. "Tell Mr. Ryland I decline his offer. And tell him—" "No, tell him nothing else. Let him wonder. Let David wonder. His arrogance is his weakness. Let's use it." When Marcus Ryland received the settlement offer back with "I decline" scrawled on it, he was furious. He immediately called David. "She's refusing," Ryland barked into the phone. "No counteroffer, no negotiation, just 'I decline.'" The arrogance. David Fletcher, however, was reclining in his study, his feet up on the desk. Sophia was perched on the edge, massaging his shoulders. He was invincible. "It's a tantrum, Marcus," David said, bored. "She's a child. She thinks she can get more. She's probably holed up with some shark of a divorce lawyer who thinks he's found a whale. Fine, let her sue. What's she going to take? Half of my salary? Freeze her out. File the motion for instability. Bury her in depositions. She'll be begging to take the $5 million in a month. David, this is a mistake. We should up the offer. Make it 10. Make it clean," Ryland advised. "Absolutely not," David snapped. "It's the principle. She gets what I give her, not a penny more. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm preparing for the board meeting. I'm about to become a legend. She's a gnat, Marcus. A gnat." He hung up. Sophia giggled. "She sounds pathetic. I decline. Who does she think she is?" "Nobody," David said, pulling her onto his lap. "She's about to find out exactly who she is. Nobody." While David celebrated his own genius, Vivian was in a very different kind of meeting. She wasn't with a divorce lawyer. She was in the 60th floor conference room of Cole, Bainbridge & Locke, a space that overlooked Central Park. The room was populated by the heaviest hitters Harrison Cole could assemble. There was Damian Richter, a forensic accountant who could find a single fraudulent penny in a mountain of data. There was Eliza Singh, a corporate litigator known for her devastating cross-examinations and her ice-cold demeanor. And there was Harrison Cole, himself, the patriarch holding a slim file. "Welcome, Vivian," Cole said. "Mr. Richter, Ms. Singh, this is Vivian Grace. She is the new controlling voice of the Grace Family Trust." Damian Richter, a man who looked more like a librarian than a bulldog, nodded. "Ms. Grace, I've begun a preliminary off-site review of the Paul Cross financials based on the public filings. Your husband is either a genius or the most reckless gambler I've ever seen." "He's a gambler," Vivian said firmly. "He's betting the entire company on the Kenjutsu acquisition." "And the Kenjutsu acquisition is a house of cards," Richter said, pushing his glasses up. "Their key patents expire in 8 months. Their R&D division has been gutted. David Fletcher didn't buy a tech leader. He bought a hollowed-out brand and a list of obsolete clients. He paid $1.8 billion for a company worth at best $300 million. Eliza Singh, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. "Why a man that smart doesn't make a $1.5 billion mistake. It's not hubris. It's fraud." "Explain," Vivian said, leaning forward. "He had to know," Singh said. "So he either made the deal to cover something else up, or he's personally benefiting." "The seller," Richter chimed in, "was a private equity firm, Helios Capital. Very aggressive, very secretive. The deal was closed in record time. David pushed the board to waive the standard 90-day due diligence. He claimed it was a competitive, time-sensitive offer." "He wanted it closed before anyone could look at the books," Vivian murmured. "My God." "Exactly," Richter said. "And here's the interesting part. Helios Capital's primary bank is a small private bank in the Cayman Islands. The same bank, it turns out, that holds the mortgage on Mr. Fletcher's new acquisition in Tribeca, the one he bought for his mistress." The room went silent. "He's compromised," Eliza Singh said, a small, grim smile on her face. "They didn't just sell him a bad company. They blackmailed him. Or worse, they paid him. A kickback. He sold out his own company, his shareholders, to push this deal through, and they paid him off by funding his personal life. Can you prove it? Vivian asked. Not from the outside, Richter admitted. We need access to the internal servers. We need the wire transfer records. We need the CEO's expense reports and communication logs. Which we can't get, Cole said without cause. David's board meeting is in 10 days, Vivian said. He's going to ask for more money. If the board gives it to him, he'll pour it right into that black hole. He'll bankrupt the company to cover his own tracks. So what's the play? Singh asked, looking directly at Vivian. You can't just walk into the board meeting. You're the mysterious Grace Family Trust. You'll show your hand too early. He'll lawyer up and stall for months. Vivian looked at the faces around the table. They were her father's army, and she was her father's daughter. No, Vivian said. We don't go for David, not yet. We go for the company. We save the company from David. She turned to Cole. Mr. Cole, how do the other board members feel about David? Henry Paul finds him brutish and impulsive. Henry's an old guard, slow and steady man. Camilla Cross thinks he's a misogynist, but she's terrified of his numbers. She won't vote against him without cover. Then we give her cover, Vivian said. We don't reveal my identity. Not yet. We act as the trust. Ms. Singh, I want you to file an emergency injunction. On what grounds? On the grounds that the single largest shareholder has been denied access to the materials for the upcoming board meeting, Vivian said. The trust demands a full independent audit of the Kenjutsu acquisition before any new financing is approved. We're not accusing David of fraud. We are accusing him of reckless endangerment of corporate assets and breach of fiduciary duty. We're not attacking him personally. We're questioning his competence. Eliza Singh began to smile. That's beautiful. It's not a divorce proceeding. It's a shareholder action. It bypasses Ryland completely. It goes straight to the company's general counsel. And David will be legally obligated to respond. He won't just respond, Cole said, catching on. He will panic. He'll assume it's one of the other board members, probably Henry Paul, coming at him through a trust. He won't see you coming. Exactly, Vivian said. He'll be fighting shadows. And while he's distracted, Mr. Richter, I want you to find that money. Dig. Find the link between Helios Capital and David Fletcher. We have 10 days. It's not a lot of time, Richter warned. Then I suggest you get started, Vivian said, standing up. As the team scrambled, Harrison Cole put a hand on Vivian's arm. This is a dangerous game, my dear. He will fight dirty when he realizes it's you. Let him, Vivian said, looking out over the park. He thinks he kicked me out into the rain. He has no idea he just locked himself in the storm with me. David Fletcher was on top of the world. He and Sophia were hosting an impromptu pre-victory dinner party at the Greenwich Mansion. The Kenjutsu deal was closed, and in 9 days the board would approve his Phase 2 funding. He'd be untouchable. He'd just promoted Sophia to VP of Strategic Branding, a title that came with a corner office and a 6-figure salary. Tonight she was playing the part of the lady of the manor, wearing a red dress that was perhaps a little too tight, and a diamond necklace that David had bought her with his Kenjutsu bonus. To David, one of his sycophantic VPs toasted holding a champagne flute. The man who can do no wrong. Hear, hear. The table cheered. David was soaking in the adoration when his personal assistant, a nervous young woman named Chloe, approached the table. Mr. Fletcher, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but a courier just delivered this. It's marked urgent, legal, and confidential. It's from a Cole Bainbridge and Locke. David's good mood evaporated. Cole Harrison. Cole, that old fossil. What does he want? He's Vivian's family lawyer. He waved dismissively. It's probably from Vivian. She's begging for more money. Give it to Marcus Ryland. I'm busy. Sir, it's not addressed to you. It's addressed to you as CEO and to the entire board of Paul Cross Industries. Now David was annoyed. He ripped the envelope open, annoyed at the intrusion. His smile faded as he read the first lines. This letter serves as formal notice. On behalf of our client, the Grace Family Trust, the single largest 22% shareholder of Paul Cross Industries, we are filing an emergency motion for injunction to halt the upcoming board vote on the Kenjutsu Phase 2 financing, pending a full independent forensic audit. The glass of champagne slipped from his hand and shattered on the Italian marble floor. The table went silent. "David, honey." "What is it?" Sophia asked, touching his arm. He didn't answer. He was rereading the words. Grace Family Trust, 22% shareholder. "That's not possible," he whispered. That's Arthur's old stake. That was supposed to be dissolved. Broken up. Vivian only has 2,000 shares. I checked. He felt a cold sweat prickle his forehead. 22%. That was a controlling block. That was everything. "Who?" he roared, standing so fast his chair toppled over. "Who is the Grace Family Trust? Who is Harrison Cole representing?" "Sir, Chloe stammered. "Get Marcus Ryland on the phone, now. And get Alan Davidoff, our general counsel. Get them both." He stormed into his study, slamming the door. The party was over. "Marcus!" he yelled into the phone, pacing frantically. "What the hell is this, the Grace Family Trust? Who is it?" "David, calm down." Ryland's voice was shaky. "I'm looking at it now. It's a shareholder action. It's completely legal." "I know it's legal." "Who is it? Who controls the trust? Is it Vivian?" It doesn't say. The trust is the plaintiff. The beneficiary is sealed. But David, Harrison Cole is her family's lawyer. It has to be her. But how? How does she have 22%? "Arthur," David spat. "That old bastard. He must have left it to her in some kind in a blind trust. She's been sitting on it all these years acting like a stupid passive. She's been playing me." "David, this is bad," Ryland said. "An injunction. A forensic audit. If she's the largest shareholder, she can force it. The rest of the board, Paul and Cross, they'll side with her just to cover themselves. What's in the Kenjutsu deal, David? Is there anything messy?" "It's a clean deal." David lied, his heart hammering in his chest. He was thinking of Helios Capital. He was thinking of the Cayman Bank. He was thinking of the $15 million consulting fee that had been wired to a shell corporation he'd set up, the shell corporation that had paid for Sophia's condo. "She's bluffing," David said, trying to convince himself. "She's trying to get leverage in the divorce. That's all this is. She's using the company to get a bigger settlement." "I don't think so, David," Ryland said. "The language here isn't personal. It's corporate. Breach of fiduciary duty. Reckless endangerment. This isn't a divorce tactic. This is a boardroom execution." David hung up and immediately called his office. "Chloe, get me the shareholder registry. Now. I want the full unredacted list." "Sir, the Grace Family Trust holding is sealed. It's held in a proxy by a bank. We can't see the beneficiary without a court order." "Then find out!" he screamed. For the next 4 days, David Fletcher was a man possessed. He was sleepless, paranoid, and erratic. He yelled at his assistants. He accused Henry Paul and Camilla Cross of conspiring with his wife. "Is this you, Henry?" he'd yelled in a video call. "Are you using my ex-wife to stage a coup?" Henry Paul, offended and confused, had replied, "David, I have no idea what you're talking about, but a 22% shareholder demanding an audit, I'd say that's perfectly reasonable. I'm thinking of voting with them." David was trapped. He couldn't attack the trust without knowing who it was. And if it was Vivian, he couldn't believe it. The quiet, mousy woman he'd dismissed, the woman he'd thrown out into the rain. It was impossible. He tried to contact Vivian. He called her cell. It went straight to voicemail. He sent her a text. "Vivian, I know what you're doing. It's a pathetic, desperate move. Call this off. Call off your attack dog Cole. We can renegotiate the settlement. You're in over your head." He received a reply 5 minutes later. It wasn't from Vivian. It was from Eliza Singh. Mr. Fletcher, please direct all future correspondence to our firm. Any attempt to contact Ms. Grace directly will be considered harassment and tampering with the plaintiff in a corporate action. We will see you at the board meeting. He threw his phone across the room where it shattered against the marble fireplace. He was losing control, and the board meeting was in 5 days. He had to stop the audit. He had to get his Phase 2 funding. He had to bury this. He made another call, a call he swore he'd never make. It's Fletcher, he said, his voice low and tight. We have a problem. That Grace Trust we discussed, it's active. And it's calling for an audit of the Kenjutsu deal. No, I don't know who. But if they dig, yes, that wire transfer. You need to fix this. Make it disappear. Now. The injunction was a masterpiece. Eliza Singh had timed it perfectly. It didn't stop the board meeting, but it changed the agenda. The vote on the Phase 2 funding was now legally tabled. The only item on the agenda was the motion from the Grace Family Trust, a vote to authorize an independent forensic audit of the Kenjutsu acquisition. David was caught. If he fought the audit, he looked guilty. If he allowed the audit, he was finished. His only move was to discredit the trust. He spent the last 48 hours before the meeting digging, calling in every favor, trying to find out who was behind it. But Harrison Cole's legal fortress was impenetrable. The beneficiary was sealed. Meanwhile, Vivian's team was working in surgical overdrive. Damian Richter, the forensic accountant, had been following the money. I have it, he said, walking into Vivian's hotel suite, which now looked like a war room. He looked exhausted but electric. He was sloppy. David was so arrogant he thought no one would ever look. He routed the $15 million kickback from Helios Capital through 3 shell companies. But the final payment, he used it to pay off the mortgage on the Greenwich house. Vivian froze. What? The house, Richter said, was still technically mortgaged by the Grace estate. Your father had a lien on it. David used the $15 million company money essentially to pay off your family's estate and take full ownership of the house, the very house he kicked you out of. He stole from his own company to steal your family's home from you. Vivian sank into a chair. It was a level of betrayal she hadn't even been able to imagine. It wasn't just greed. It was personal. It was a complete and total erasure of her and her father. And that, Richter said, sliding a final file across the table, is the wire transfer confirmation, the smoking gun. Eliza, Vivian said, her voice dangerously quiet. It's admissible, Singh said, her eyes gleaming. It's corporate fraud, wire fraud, and embezzlement. It's not just a firing offense. It's a federal crime. So what's the plan for tomorrow? Cole asked. We present this, we destroy him. Vivian was silent for a long time, staring at the numbers on the page. She thought of the rain. She thought of her father. She thought of David's laugh as he called her dead weight. No, she said finally. This isn't for the board. Not yet. Vivian, what are you talking about? Eliza said. This is the kill shot. If we present this, the company's stock plummets. CEO indicted for fraud. It's a scandal that will gut Paul Cross from the inside out. My father's legacy. All those employees. They'll be ruined. This isn't just about punishing David. It's about saving the company. Then what do we do? Cole asked. Tomorrow I am not the scorned wife. I am not the victim, Vivian said. I am the largest shareholder. We don't use the gun. We just let him know we have it. We go in with the breach of fiduciary duty. We question his competence. We expose the Kenjutsu deal as a bad bet, not as a criminal conspiracy. But we argue that he is too reckless, too hubristic to lead. And David? Singh asked. David will know what we have. I'll make sure of it. He'll be given a choice. He can either resign quietly citing personal reasons and hand over his 2.5% stake to the company, or we release the audit. You're going to let him walk? Eliza was aghast. "He's not walking." Vivian said, her eyes like steel. "He's going to be ruined. His reputation will be gone. His money will be gone. The divorce will take the rest. But the company will be seen as righting the ship. New leadership. The stock will stabilize. This is how we save Paul Cross. We cut the cancer out cleanly." Harrison Cole smiled. "That, my dear, is exactly what your father would have done." "One more thing," Vivian said. She picked up her phone and dialed. "Chloe." "Yes, this is Vivian Grace." "No, I'm fine. I need you to do something for me. I know you've been Mr. Fletcher's assistant for 5 years. Yes, I know he's been difficult. I am offering you a new position, executive assistant to the office of the chairman. But first I need you to place one item on the boardroom table, at Mr. Fletcher's seat, no one else's. Yes, a single sheet of paper in a sealed black envelope." She told Chloe what the paper was. It was the wire transfer confirmation. The 48th floor boardroom of Paul Cross Tower was a cathedral of glass and steel overlooking the New York skyline. The mood was Arctic. The long black marble table seated 12, but today only 5 people were present. David Fletcher at the head of the table. He looked haggard, his suit immaculate, but his face pale and drawn. Henry Paul, son of the co-founder, a man in his late 60s who valued tradition and stability above all. Camilla Cross, daughter of the other co-founder, sharp progressive, and a numbers woman. Alan Davidoff, the company's general counsel, looking like he was about to be sick. And at the far end of the table a single empty chair with a speakerphone in the middle. This was for the representative of the Grace Family Trust. David gripped the edges of the table. He was ready for a fight. He was going to paint the trust as a hostile outside agitator trying to greenmail the company. He was going to defend the Kenjutsu deal as a bold, forward-thinking move. "Let's get this over with," David said, his voice grating. "As you all know, an anonymous entity, the Grace Trust, has filed a frivolous motion to stall our progress. I urge the board to vote no on this absurd audit so we can get back to the business of—" "Before you begin, Mr. Fletcher," Henry Paul interrupted, his voice dry, "I believe the representative for the trust is dialing in." The speakerphone in front of the empty chair lit up. "This is Harrison Cole of Cole, Bainbridge & Locke, acting as counsel for the Grace Family Trust." The old lawyer's voice filled the room. "The trust, however, will not be dialing in. The primary beneficiary will be attending in person." David's head snapped up. "What? That's not protocol. Who is it?" As if on cue, the double doors to the boardroom hissed open. 2 people walked in. The first was Harrison Cole holding a leather briefcase. The second was Vivian Grace. She was not the woman David had thrown out. That woman was gone. This Vivian was dressed in a dark charcoal gray suit perfectly tailored. Her hair was pulled back in a severe, elegant chignon. Her face was calm, composed, and utterly unreadable. She walked with a silent, powerful grace that commanded the room. David Fletcher's blood ran cold. He visibly shrank in his chair. "Vivian, what? What is this? This is a closed board meeting. Get her out of here, Alan." "I'm afraid she has every right to be here, David." Henry Paul said, a slow smile dawning on his face. He was finally understanding. "Mrs. Fletcher, Ms. Grace, is the Grace Family Trust," Harrison Cole announced. "She is the sole beneficiary and acting trustee of her father's 22% founder's stake. She is in fact the largest shareholder at this table." Camilla Cross let out a low whistle. "Well, this just got interesting." Vivian said nothing. She simply walked to the empty chair and sat down, placing a slim file in front of her. She looked at Henry, then at Camilla. "Mr. Paul, Ms. Cross, a pleasure to see you again. It's been too long." Then she turned her eyes to David. He was staring at her, his face a mask of purple rage and disbelief. You bitch! This was a scam. All these years you've been plotting this. Mr. Fletcher, You will address the chair with respect, Harrison Cole snapped. I am the chair, David roared. Actually, no, Camilla Cross said, checking the company bylaws on her tablet. The largest attending shareholder has the right to chair a special meeting. That would be Ms. Grace. Vivian, the floor is yours. Vivian looked at David. Her gaze was not one of hatred. It was one of pity. It was the look a scientist gives a specimen under a microscope. David, she said, her voice clear and carrying. Before we discussed the motion, did you happen to see the document I had placed on your desk this morning? David's eyes darted down. He'd been so panicked he hadn't noticed the slim black envelope. His hands trembled as he tore it open. He pulled out the single sheet of paper. He read it. It was the wire transfer, the $15 million from Helios Capital's shell company, the payment to the Grace estate to buy the house. All the blood drained from David's face. He looked up at Vivian, his mouth open, making a small gasping sound. He wasn't just beaten, he was destroyed, and he knew she knew. That, Vivian said quietly, for his ears only, is the audit, or a preview of it. She then turned to the rest of the board. Ladies and gentlemen, I have called this meeting because Paul Cross is in grave danger. The Kenjutsu acquisition, which Mr. Fletcher pushed through without proper due diligence, is a catastrophic failure. The company is, by my analyst's reckoning, a hollow shell. Mr. Fletcher didn't just make a bad deal, he was incompetent. She chose the word carefully. Incompetent, not criminal. She was giving him the exit. His Phase 2 funding request, she continued, is an attempt to throw good money after bad to cover up his own catastrophic mistake. A mistake that has leveraged this company to the brink of insolvency. The Grace Trust cannot and will not allow this to continue. David was hyperventilating. He was trapped. If he fought her, she'd release the file. He'd go to prison. What do you want? He stammered, the words barely audible. My motion is twofold, Vivian announced to the room. First, I move for an immediate freeze on all Kenjutsu-related spending. Second, I call for a vote of no confidence in our CEO, David Fletcher, who has proven himself recklessly incompetent and a danger to this company's future. Seconded, Henry Paul said immediately. Seconded, Camilla Cross added. All in favor? Vivian asked. Henry's hand went up. Camilla's hand went up. Vivian's hand went up. All opposed. David Fletcher just stared at the wire transfer, his world collapsing. Alan Davidoff, the lawyer, slowly, reluctantly raised his hand. The motion carries 3-1, Vivian said, her voice like a gavel. Mr. Fletcher, you are relieved of your duties as CEO and as a member of this board effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. David stood up, shaking. You won't get away with this, Vivian. I just did, Vivian said. Security. Two large men who had been waiting outside the doors entered the room. They flanked David. My things, my office, he sputtered. Your personal items will be boxed and sent to your lawyer, Vivian said. Mr. Davidoff, please ensure Mr. Fletcher's corporate accounts and access are terminated, now. As they led him away, a broken, defeated shell of a man, David stopped at the door and looked back. The house. Vivian. The house. The house, Vivian replied, was purchased with funds embezzled from this company. It is now an asset of Paul Cross pending litigation. You are trespassing. I'd find a hotel if I were you, but I'd stay away from the Delamar. They're very particular about their clientele. He was gone. The room was silent. Henry Paul finally let out a long breath. My God, Arthur, your daughter is a lion. Vivian simply nodded. Now, gentlemen, Ms. Cross, let's talk about how we save our company. The news of David Fletcher's departure hit the Paul Cross Tower like a controlled demolition. The official press release issued within an hour of the board meeting was a masterpiece of corporate neutrality crafted by Harrison Cole and the PR team. David Fletcher has stepped down from his role as CEO to pursue other opportunities effective immediately. The board thanks him for his years of service. But within the glass-walled offices, the truth spread with the speed of light. The king was gone, deposed in a single silent meeting. His name was chiseled off his reserved parking space before his office was even cleared. His coterie of VPs, the sycophants who had toasted his genius at the dinner party, suddenly had pressing meetings elsewhere, their loyalty evaporating the instant his access key was deactivated. David, sitting in a sterile, overpriced room at the Mandarin Oriental, he couldn't bring himself to go to a lesser hotel, not yet found his calls to allies and board members going straight to polite, unhelpful secretaries. His power hadn't just been transferred. It had been nullified. He was a ghost. The true evisceration, however, happened 2 days later in the offices of Cole, Bainbridge, and Locke. A shell-shocked, trembling Marcus Ryland sat opposite Eliza Singh, who looked as if she were about to discuss the weather. "This is our final settlement offer, Marcus," Eliza said, her voice flat. She slid a single-page document across the gleaming mahogany table. Ryland read it. His face, already pale, turned a sickly ashen gray. This is a joke. It's punitive. It's theft. You're taking everything. His personal assets, the art collection, the Hamptons house. You can't do this." "I can, and I have," Eliza replied, not even glancing at her notes. She steepled her fingers. "Let's review the facts, shall we?" Fact 1, the Greenwich Mansion. It was purchased using a $15 million kickback from Helios Capital Funds, demonstrably embezzled from Paul Cross, Ms. Grace, as the primary shareholder, has graciously agreed to forgive the company's loss in exchange for the deed. It's no longer a marital asset, Marcus. It's a corporate reclamation. But the Hamptons house, the art that was purchased with his bonuses. Ryland sputtered, desperation creeping into his voice. "Ah, yes, the bonuses," Eliza said, allowing a small, cold smile. "I direct you to Article 4, Section B of the prenuptial agreement, the one your client insisted upon, if you recall, the infidelity and morality clause. His documented long-term affair with Ms. Sophia Hayes, complete with Amex receipts for hotels, jewelers, and a leased condo in Tribeca, voids all his claims to a 50-50 split of non-corporate assets. He broke the contract. He gets nothing. This is vindictive." Ryland slammed his hand on the table. Eliza leaned forward, her eyes narrowing to slits. "Vindictive, Mr. Ryland, vindictive would be forwarding the full file on my desk, the one detailing wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, to the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. What this is," she tapped the paper, "is a gift. This document ensures my client's silence on his criminal activities. This is not a negotiation. This is an abdication." "What about his shares?" Ryland whispered, utterly defeated. "His 2.5% stake already forfeited. That is the only reason he is not currently in a federal holding cell. He will walk away with his personal bank account, which after your fees will be negligible, and his cufflinks. Tell him not to contact Ms. Grace or the company ever again." As for Sophia Hayes, her corporate revolution was short-lived. Her new high-limit corporate card was declined at a Chanel boutique on Fifth Avenue. By the time she got back to the Tribeca condo, fuming, the locks were changed. Her new title and corner office rescinded. She, like David, had learned the brutal lesson that proximity to power is not the same as holding it. The 6 months that followed were grueling. Vivian wasn't just a figurehead. She was a wartime general. She was named permanent chairwoman of the board by a unanimous vote from Henry Paul and Camilla Cross, who were both deeply impressed and frankly a little terrified by her quiet competence and ruthless efficiency. "She cut out the rot without killing the patient," Henry had remarked to Camilla over coffee. "Her father was a builder. She's a surgeon." Vivian's first move was to authorize the very audit she had threatened. The results were, as she expected, horrifying. The Kenjutsu deal was a black hole of debt and obsolete tech. She and the new CEO she'd promoted, a sharp, no-nonsense woman from operations named Maria Torres, made the brutal decision. "We sell it," Vivian said in a late-night meeting, rubbing her temples. "We take the loss. We write it down as the Fletcher Folly. We'll take the hit to our stock once and then we will rebuild on a foundation of truth. No more egos, no more lies. They sold the hollowed-out company for scrap, taking a staggering $1.7 billion loss. But the market, seeing the decisive action, the immediate house cleaning, and the new transparent leadership, didn't panic. The stock dipped, then stabilized, then began to climb. Vivian poured the company's remaining capital not into flashy acquisitions, but into its people, into the R&D division her father had started, the one David had starved for a decade. She didn't just save the company, she was restoring its soul. Tonight, Vivian returned home. Not to a hotel, not to a condo, but to the Greenwich mansion. It was hers. The air was different. The cold, sterile, modern, art-filled mausoleum David had created was gone. She had brought back her family's furniture from storage. The house was now filled with warm woods, worn leather armchairs, and the scent of old books and fresh flowers. The lingering odor of David's expensive whiskey and arrogance was finally gone. She walked into her study, and poured a small glass of wine. On her desk, cleared of David's self-congratulatory trophies, sat a single-framed photograph. It was her 20 years younger, arm in arm with her father, Arthur Grace. They were standing outside the old factory the day Paul Cross first went public. She looked at the young woman in the photo, the quiet, observant daughter who had faded into the background, the nothing wife. David had looked at that same woman for 15 years and seen a dead weight. That was his fatal, unforgivable mistake. He never understood that the quietest people are not weak. They are listening. They are learning. They are waiting. He had kicked her out of the house believing he was the king banishing a peasant. He had no idea he was just an obstacle, a temporary arrogant usurper in a legacy that ran deeper and stronger than he could ever fathom. He didn't just lose his house, his job, or his money. He lost a war he never even knew he was fighting against, an opponent he was too blind, too hubristic to ever truly see. Vivian raised her glass to the photo. "We're home, Dad," she whispered. And for the first time in a very, very long time, she was. The story of Vivian Grace and David Fletcher is a brutal lesson in arrogance. David saw his wife as an accessory, a piece of furniture in the house he believed he'd built. He forgot that the foundation he was standing on wasn't his at all, it was hers. He kicked her out into the rain, never realizing she owned the storm. In the end, it wasn't just about the shares, it was about the power of underestimating the person who has watched and waited and learned. What did you think of David's epic downfall? Was Vivian's move in the boardroom a cold-blooded corporate execution, or was it perfect calculated justice? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you love stories of justice and unbelievable real-life reversals, make sure to like this video and share it with someone who needs to see that the quietest person in the room is often the most powerful. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a single story of sweet, sweet revenge.